Hello! Before we start, I please ask you to excuse me if I make some little language mistakes because English is not my mother language. I tried to do my best to avoid such mistakes to give you an English version of this video after it helped a lot of people in its original French version. Well, I'd like to show you today a way I found to unblock your bathtub without having to call a plumber, without needing a single tool and neither needing to access below the bathtub. Well, the method is the following. When you have your bathtub blocked, the clog can be present on two places. Inside the plug of your bathtub. What is the plug? It's the part that is located below the hole there. I'm going to show you if you have never seen it. Here it is. The plug is that white part that prevents the smells to reach back the taps and that allows to regulate the evacuation of the water. So what can be done there if you have access to this part? When you take a shower, hairs fall into this hole. Some of them cling to this metal part and they make a hairball that day after day prevents more and more the water from exiting the bathtub. So this ball can be found into this part. Here it's the evacuation, the hole of the bathtub is just above. So the first thing to do if you have access to this part is to empty the plug by unscrewing here the attach. Be careful, there is here inside a seal that you must not lose. And by unscrewing here too. There is also a seal in here, and to empty this part into a bucket. And normally you should find there a big ball of hair somewhere there or even there, inside the part that connects to the bathtub hole. You can start by trying to remove the maximum of hair you can see on this attach. The second place where you can have a problem is inside the tube. Sometimes a ball has been blocked inside the tube and it blocks the tube. That was what happened to me. The plug was completely empty and in fact the bowl was much further and prevented the water from being evacuated. So what to do? What I'm going to explain can be done even if you don't have any access to the bellow of the bathtub. Notice that the first and best thing to do, if you can do it, is to remove any content you can find into the plug. It's made for that. Just be careful when you will put it back to ensure to put back the seals in a good way. So if you are not used to do that, then avoid to do that operation because you could create water leaks. The second thing you can do if you cannot empty that plug, first remove by hand all the thin hair you can find here with your hand or with a little hook or a bent iron wire. Remove the maximum hair and things that can be hooked on this part, that can retain a hairball that can be below, inside the hole. So if you could have access to the plug, okay, everything is already removed. But if you couldn't, then you can try help yourself, beginning the process by using a little bit of household product you can find in the shop that will start liquefying the ball of hair that can be inside, and with some water this should be sent inside the tube. If this does not work enough, then it's probably because the bowl is much further into that evacuation tube and the water pressure cannot push it to send it to the general evacuation there. What do the plumber do in that situation? Or by entering from here by removing the plug or entering the tube by the hole in the bathtub, they send a metal stem that will push the water until it reaches the evacuation. So if you don't have this stem or if you don't have access to the bottom of the bathtub, how may you do? It's simple. Here is the idea I had that worked out of expectations. I hope it will work as well for you. It's replacing the stem simply by a hard water pressure. So to create this water pressure, you must send a lot of water with pressure into the tube and prevent this water to go back and force it to go this way, to push with the pressure the water to the end. Well, in my bathtub, I think it's the same in almost all bathtubs, there are three ways the water can run. There is this tube that makes the water go out the bathtub. There is this tube that we can see coming from there that corresponds to this exit way, used to avoid the water overflow. When the water goes up, if it overflows, it enters there, goes down, and goes to the evacuation. When it's blocked, we can see that the water will follow the opposite way, comes back here, here and follow the nearest and largest access that is the main hole of the bathtub, making it going up and filling it. So the first thing to do is to prevent the water from using this way by sending a hard water chute. To make this water chute, you take your flexible tube, remove the shower head and carefully keep the seal that we'll find here. You don't want to lose it. And you open the water as much as you can, and you will see a hard water chute coming. Can you see? I will try not to splash everywhere. As you can see, it's a powerful stream, and the idea is to send it like this into the tube. Here we can see the water going back, because doing like this, all the pressure does not go inside the tube. How to do to prevent the water to go back and force it to go inside the tube? I will show you now, without water, or I will splash everywhere. You take a cloth, I will use a towel, but you can take an old cloth, a sock, or any cloth you can find. And the idea is simply to wrap. It's not easy with just one hand, I will try to do it. Here it is. To wrap the flexible tube like this with the cloth and push it inside the hole, preventing the water to go back with the cloth. Well, as the cloth will quickly be wet, it will be easier, because a wet cloth is very waterproof. So doing like this, with the one hand it's not easy, but you can see the principle, you will prevent the water to go back, while sending the water pressure inside the hole. What can happen at that moment? There was still this way the water could use to go back. So the water go back the tube you saw before and flowed by here. Using the same method, I will prevent the water from coming back from here, so from there and from there. So what did I use? Well, simply an old cloth I found in which I made a strip like this. I wrapped it around, and in the same way, as soon as it becomes wet, it's really waterproof. And with my second hand, I maintained it very tightened. And what happened? The water being prevented to come back from here, and from here, from here, and from here, all the water pressure injected using the tube had one last way to exit. That was this tube, that's what happened, and that pushed almost instantly the water to the evacuation, unblocking the bathtub. So it's a method that works pretty well. I just think that you must be very careful if you have very old tubes, because if the seals that are here at the intersections are old, well, the sand pressure is not excessive. It's not a really hard pressure, but perhaps that if they already are really old and damaged, that could create some little leaks. So if you can, be careful, put a little basin below the different intersections where there are seals in case of leaks, and if you see some falling drops, then stop and start to consider another kind of solution for your problem. But in a general case, I think that using this solution should not cause any trouble. Once again, do this in a reasonable way and being really very careful not to create leaks. Another thing to help this method working well, the plug must be as empty as possible, so if you have any hair here, do anything you can to remove them, so anything they can retain below can be pushed into the tube with water pressure. 2 or 3 thin hairs there are hard enough to retain a hairball into the plug, and then even with the hardest pressure you can send, the hair will win. So I hope this will help you and work as well as it worked for me, and as you have seen, using this method it's possible to unblock a bathtub without having the need of a single tool. And remember to be very careful about the seals that can be old and that could perhaps not resist to the pressure you will send into the tube, but once again, I think it's a reasonable pressure. Well, I hope I could have helped you, and I wish you to take a good bath. Bye bye!